everybody. This is The Record Player. I'm Scott, and this is John Angus MacDonald from the pride of Antigonish in the beautiful province of Nova Scotia, from the Canadian rock band The Trews. Their latest album is called The Wanderer. They have a brand new Christmas single out now and have a show coming up on December the 3rd at the legendary Danforth Music Hall. Welcome, John Angus. Thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
Anywhere in Nova Scotia is beautiful. Antigonish is no exception. I grew up, spent a little bit of time anyway when I was a kid in a little remote place called Black Point, Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Between Hubbard's and St. Margaret's Bay.
I've been to Hubbard's. We played there before.
Really?
Yeah, there's a venue there, kind of like a summer cottage.
Was it the Stratford Inn by chance, or Shatford Inn?
No, it's not. It's it'll come back to me during the course of this interview. I'm positive.
That's the only place I remember is the Shatford Inn because
there's a place. It's almost like the Key to Bala. Do you know that venue up in Cottage Country? It's kind of like that for Halifax. I just can't remember the name of it. But anyway, we did play there a few years ago.
Awesome. The Shatford Inn was on near Queensland Beach, where we spent a lot of time.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
The Wanderer. Let's talk about the newest album. Anyway, it's been out for about a year now. I think it's your best record out of the 7, which is saying quite a lot because all your stuff has been great. This album absolutely rocks, and what I mean by that is that this is a guitar album. Like this is this album gets much louder than I think some of the previous stuff. Was that something that was kind of, on purpose to make a guitar album?
Yeah, I mean, we've always been a guitar-based band for the most part. I think that we got a little off of that on the Civilianaires record. We got a little more experimental with studio tricks. It was great. It really got us out of a rut when we were, before we were making Civilianaires, we took a real long gap between records, and I think we felt a little bit like rudderless. So we connected with Derek Hoffman and immediately came up with a whole fresh batch of tunes, and it felt very fresh, but it was made very differently. It wasn't made live off the floor in a studio like we've been used to doing most of our career. So I think just naturally we were ready to backlash against that again and go back to what we sort of do best, which is like, rock together live off the floor as a band. So we kind of wrote material with that in mind. And that's the sort of record that it ended up being. I mean, I'm kind of bypassing the fact that it all got made during the first year of the pandemic, which made it incredibly complicated. It was a hard record to make because we had to start and stop and start and stop and beg, borrow, and steal studio time and change producers in midstream a few times just because of logistics.
This album started. You started the process before the pandemic, right? With working with Rich Robinson.
Yeah, December of 2019 was the first session. So we went to Nashville and worked with Rich, and we had planned. Everybody was very excited with the songs that we did together. And we were planning to go back in March. So then COVID, and the border stayed closed for like a year and a half. So like the idea of going back to work more with Rich was just like indefinitely shelved. I still want to do more with him down the line. And we played with the Black Crowes this past summer, and we talked about doing some more stuff at some point. But we just had to sort of like configure how we were going to go about it, doing the record. So we got back with Derek, who did Civilianaires, but I told him we're going to do it live off the floor, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm on board." He's such a talented guy. But we got together in August of 2020 again. Like, just we had a window where the restrictions were such where we could be together, and then we went and did the last 6 with Eric Rats, and that was like as COVID was starting to like get bad again, and we were all working in small groups. Like we would come in small groups, so we never got all together at once. So it was just very odd to make a record in those conditions, but I think it turned out pretty good, all things considered.
Did it help to have or hinder to have that kind of time? I mean, because sometimes you think you're done and you're happy with the product, but then you get too much time to go back and screw with it. You know what I mean?
I think it was the illusion of time, because we did have a lot of time at home, and we did take advantage of that, and we wrote a lot. But the studio time was actually pretty finite. Like, the time that we had together in the studio was pretty limited, especially with the producer and engineer that we wanted in the studio we wanted to be like, we have 6 days. It wouldn't be like we have 6 months. We had 6 months at home to sit around thinking about it, but we didn't have all that much time to actually do it. And I think one of the reasons we bring producers in, I mean, I'm a producer. I produce a lot of other bands, and I trust in the taste and skill level of all my bandmates. But we love having that objective voice in the room, and that helps with what you're saying, which is like not letting the thing go on and on and on.
Right.
And I think Eric Ratz calls it managing expectations. You like, here's what this guy wants, and this guy wants, and this guy wants. Here's what's realistic, and here's what we're gonna go for. And I think that we've always been pretty good at compromising and getting it done, because ultimately we don't want it to go on and on forever either. It becomes uninspiring.
You mentioned playing live. Is there any songs on this record that you consider a favorite that you enjoy performing?
There's so many. Permission was the first really great live song that we had from the record. We were playing it a good year before the record came out. But since the record's come out, Can't Afford to Be Lonely has become like one of the best live songs. And the song The Wanderer as well has become a great live song. Lovelock, we found works really well acoustically. Of course, I Want to Play works great. So there's a lot of songs. Can't Control Myself also works good. It's built for live. It's a good live record.
Switching gears a little bit, anyone in the record player who watches us knows my feelings about Christmas music. I'm not exactly Mr. Christmas music. It's depending on my mood, December 1st is when it starts, if I'll even entertain the thought at that point. This is good. This Christmas song that you guys have is good. It's called Christmas, Merry Christmas. Is this something you've always thought about doing as a Christmas song, or was this just something that was spur of the moment, you had time?
We definitely had time, but it came about in a really weird way. We do have one other Christmas song in our catalog. It's one of those things that, like, at a certain point in your career, somebody suggests it. They go like, "You guys should do a Christmas song," and usually you cringe. And so that happened back in 2011, like 2010, 2011. Maybe it was later than that, but anyway, like sometime, like I think it was after our fourth album, and our manager at the time was like, "You should consider it, because like it's kind of perennial, like you do one, and then every year it kind of surfaces." And that was the case. We wrote a song called Coming Home, which was our previous Christmas song. And every year, sure enough, it kind of resurfaces, and I'll hear it on the radio here and there, or it gets added to playlists, and I start hearing it again. And so it does. And I think this was an attempt to replace that song, have like a fresh take on it. And this was a weird little song that's been bandied around for a couple of years. Like, it wasn't necessarily gonna be a Christmas song. And eventually, when Colin kind of finished up the lyrics with that idea in mind, then it became our sort of latest Christmas tune. But what's funny is, like, when you're writing a Christmas song, you sort of, for inspiration, just start looking at the ones that you like, and you start realizing there are quite a lot of amazing Christmas songs. Like,
there is, yeah.
Like you think of the Pogues as a really obvious place to go, and that's not even. I think the key to a good Christmas song is not making it only about Christmas.
Right.
It's just Christmas is part of it. The war is over if you want it. Happy Christmas. I'm getting drunk in New York and like getting bar fights or whatever else, but it's also Christmas time. And I think that's the sort of key, is like, you got to have something else going on in it. And so that's where we took the inspiration.
I agree with you 100%. The Pretenders' Christmas song is
I love that song.
One of the ones I love. The Paola's Christmas song is one of the ones I love, because it's not necessarily a Christmas. There's an Elton John song called Cold as Christmas that's not necessarily a Christmas song.
Yeah.
So I feel on that. If you could write one to replace the Mariah Carey one, please do. That would be.
The McCartney one kind of grinds on me a bit.
That one too, yeah, that's up there on the list. From one holiday to another, I'd be remiss not to mention, since we're talking to you around Remembrance Day, there are songs that are just flat out Canadian in my mind. Spirit of Radio, Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. For some reason, If I Had $1 Million is Canadian to me. Any hip song at all is a Canadian song. And The Highway of Heroes. I mean, that is a Canada song. 12 years now, we all knew it would be an important song at the time that it was put out. Are you surprised by the impact that it still has to this day?
Yes, the short answer is definitely yes, because songs are funny things, and you can work really hard on something that you never play ever again, you know, and other songs can come really quickly and be impactful immediately. And in the case of Highway Heroes, it was the latter. You know, we were going out on an acoustic tour, and Colin and I were like, let's write something new for the tour. Colin had a melody, a sketch of the lyric, and it wasn't even about what it was about at first. I think he was saying Highway of Dreamers, and I was like, well, let's do it about Highway of Heroes, because I think the highway had recently been rechristened or something. But anyway, we got Gordie on the phone, and it all came together in like, it was really quick. It was like shockingly quick, but we kind of realized it was powerful when we started playing it, and it wasn't recorded yet, and people were crying, and you know, and I'm not. I just say that to. I just think the lyrics hit a nerve, you know, and that was a surprise to us, and um, then we recorded it, and it sort of it brought us to places that we never thought we would. You know, the commissioners brunch at the Grey Cup where we're playing for the prime minister, and then we're over and playing for the troops over in the Middle East. You know, so like things were starting to happen just because of this song. And so yeah, I'm really happy that it's stood the test of time and that it means something to people, because ultimately that's the whole purpose of songwriting, is, you know, for it to mean something to other people. And um, you know, my son is 8, and he's learning it at school, you know,
Yeah.
so like he's gonna learn it and sing it at his assembly and next week. So, and they didn't know that. I mean, they know the connection now because he piped up and told them, but they were already doing that, you know. So it's kind of cool.
They were probably like, "No way! No, stop fibbing." You guys have toured. I don't even want to guess how much money that song's raised over the years as well. So good for you guys. You guys have toured with or shared the stage with the Rolling Stones, Robert Plant, Aerosmith, Springsteen. I mean, you must feel insanely blessed about that alone. Is there a highlight for you that stands out for that you just pinch yourself and say, you know, did we do that? Was that me? You know.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few. You know, I tend to go back to being on stage with the E Street Band. We've told this story a million times, but we did when we opened for Bruce. We got the invite to come and play with him in his encore when we met him, which was like incredibly generous of him. Like we didn't add anything to his show, you know, but it was very it meant a lot to us. So it was awesome because he's a cool dude. So we got up and played with him when we were, you know, opening for him, and meeting and playing with the Stones was incredible. I feel like that's like was really like a once in a, I mean, once in a handful of bands do you get to do that, and so that was great. And then, but as recently as this summer, like I mean, I can't really stress enough how much the Black Crowes meant to me when I was coming up, and Rich in particular as a guitar player had a big influence. So to get to play with those guys was also great. And then there's Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses and Kiss and Robert Plant. Like the list is it goes on and on. So I think we're very lucky and blessed to have, you know, a lot of it right place, right time, and good band. But then also just great opportunities have come our way, and we have a great team that is constantly, you know, working on all fronts. So a lot of credit can be spread around, but it definitely things I won't forget.
Was the Stones thing in a small venue too, wasn't it? It wasn't
Yeah,
in a,
it was at the Phoenix.
yeah,
So, you know, the Stones have a habit of rehearsing in
right.
Toronto and then doing some kind of show.
Combo
Yeah,
over the years, yeah. So
yeah.
that was at that small location. That
It
must
was
have
at the
been.
Phoenix. So we were in Toronto. We weren't living in Toronto yet, and promoting Den of Thieves, and we got a call the day before, just saying like they're gonna play the Phoenix. They haven't told anybody yet, but they want you guys to open. So we couldn't even tell anybody because it was still a secret. So the next day, we were suddenly at the Phoenix, loading in our rinky-dink little cases, and the Stones are sound checking on stage. Like all the four of them, just they're working out tunes, and then yeah, I mean, surreal, totally surreal.
I think it was recently the 40th anniversary or 45th anniversary or something of the El Macambo thing with April Wine, and they put out a record of that thing.
Yeah,
So
love
maybe
you live, right?
40 years from now, we're going to get a Trews live at the Phoenix or
Yeah, maybe.
something. Playing with you got Danforth Music Hall coming up. I haven't been lucky enough to see you guys live yet. In all these years, I have yet to see you guys perform. So I can't wait.
Where are you based? Are you based in
We're
Toronto?
in just outside Toronto, north of Toronto.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see that. Assuming we'll hear the Christmas song, what else can we expect from a Trews show on this tour?
Well, we've been playing all summer, so we have a pretty well-oiled set of, that includes a lot of the new record and obviously everybody's favorites kind of thing. So, but we also have Gord Sinclair on the bill, and one of the things we were doing before COVID is, we have a long, and I don't know if it's a storied history, but a long history with the Hip. We love them a lot, and have been lucky enough to get to play with them and get to know them all through the years. And with Gord, he produced some stuff for us, and I produced his solo record with him, and so there's a real all in the family kind of vibe when we play with Gord, and we tend to back each other up, and there's cameos and everything. So I think there'll be some special stuff like that too. So I'll just leave it at that because we haven't necessarily planned it all out, but it'll be a special evening.
Fantastic. I want to thank you so much for being with us on the Record Player. The new album, or newest album, it's been out for a year, November. I think it's almost coming up on a year.
Yeah.
It's called The Wanderer. The new Christmas song is simply called Christmas, I believe. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Good luck at the Danforth, and we can't wait to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
No problem. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.